episode of Pandas playing cello. We appreciate all the views we've been getting on the videos. And I just thought, since we never say this, that I would start with saying, if you like the content, a good way to know when we post a new video is to subscribe to our channel, like it, whatever. But we like you regardless of what you decide to do. So
we love you exactly as you are.
Exactly as you are. Our guest today, and we've been practicing saying her name, and I'm about to have a performance clutch episode, but is Nadia Touminen.
Very good.
Very good. And Nadia, where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Surrey in England.
Very nice. I visited Nadia, I guess, the first year we could travel during the pandemic. Yeah. That must have been 2012.
No. You mean 2022?
2022, a couple of years ago.
I'm completely confused with the, oh, golly. Anyway.
You just subtracted 10 years.
Okay, but anyway, and Nadia lives a train ride from London. And I don't know if I'm sure you've been to London. I don't know if you've enjoyed taking all the suburban train rides, but I love them. I love.
Oh, me too. It's so peaceful. If you want to ever have like mystical insights, you just sit on a train and you go to some suburban place and you can come back. You don't actually have to get out of the train.
True. And of course, the real Londoners hate it. Yes, Nadia.
Yeah. Well, this is it. If you have to commute and you work in central London, the love of the train ride kind of goes away, because you travel at the times when the trains are packed, they smell funny, everybody's coughing, especially after COVID. You don't want to be around that. So the magic of the train journey kind of disappears, unless you're on holiday and going away somewhere. Then it might come back.
So Nadia has one of the most interesting family backgrounds I've heard in a long time. And one of my theories, kind of optimistic theories about the world today, is that we're combining our gene pools in new and exciting ways that we were not ever able to do so really until modernity, and that only good can come of that. So Nadia, tell us about your family background.
Well, I mean, at its simplest, I'm half Finnish from Finland and half Lebanese. So genetically, that's my distribution, if you like. But I was raised in Cyprus, in a town called Larnaca on the Greek side. And yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. It does get more complex if you start to dig into it and where people were raised and all this sort of thing. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Half Finnish, half Lebanese. Christian and Muslim sides. That's obviously came together.
Which cuisine do you gravitate towards?
Oh, well, see, I think because my formative years were in Cyprus, I definitely gravitate towards Cypriot or Greek cuisine, which is very similar in some ways to Lebanese cuisine as well. So I love Lebanese food. I love Middle Eastern food, Mediterranean food. And it's so healthy, right? Mediterranean diet, healthy. So
it matches your sweater. The Greek doesn't the Greek flag match your sweater?
Yeah, exactly. You're looking very Hellenic. If you can use the word that way, I'm not sure.
Well, you just did. I think it's okay. Well, wonderful. I'm really glad you're here. But I didn't know about your background, although that kind of helps explain a little bit to me, although maybe it doesn't help explain it all in reality, but it helps me rationalize why you're such an eclectic thinker.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realize I came across that way, but I like that. I like that phrase, eclectic thinker. I think that's nice.
Well, Nadia and I are people that met on social networks. And then, as I said already, met IRL a couple of years later. And I think maybe a good place to start is the reason why we met on a social network is that you were commenting on a paper or something I had posted on LinkedIn about intuition, as I recall.
Yes.
And what is your interest in intuition? And maybe you can say professionally how that works into what you do.
Yeah, sure. Oh, I mean, I'm fascinated by the way our minds work. And in terms of intuition, I have this view that my conscious self, so me operating in control of myself and my body, is actually this stupid little puppet. And up in my head is this intelligent life force that we all have that's kind of pulling the strings, and we don't really have control over it. We don't really have full access to it. But occasionally when it shines through, that's the intuition. It's the subconscious reasoning side of it, is what I like to call it, as opposed to the kind of gut reaction to things. It's more about the reasoning that's happening that you're not even aware of. Even things as simple as, you know, what your brain does while you're asleep. The very fact that you're not in conscious control of that and stuff is still going on that is amazing and really helpful while you're sleeping. It's like, come on, how can you really think you're in control of yourself? You're so not. Your conscious self is like a puppet. But it came about really from when I worked. So I worked in policing for 10 years. I was an intelligence analyst in law enforcement. And obviously you have your day-to-day work. You might be working on proactive jobs. You might be working on neighborhood crime or international crime. But it's working in really, really high pressure situations that made me suddenly realize what my brain was capable of, and being shocked at realizing that my brain can come up with answers that I didn't understand how it got there. But I was, you know, really quite confident in myself that those answers were right. But then I can't explain myself in those high pressure situations why I think they're right, but I'm pretty sure they're right. And then realizing that this power is up here somewhere to come up with answers. It's just that fascinated me. That was the beginning of my absolute fascination with intuition in that sense. Almost like expert intuition. How does it come about? And why is it that it's in those really intense situations? You know, if you don't figure it out now, that person might die. You know, we worked on threats to life, kidnaps, things like that. You've got to be moving as quickly as you can. What is it about those situations that are really intense? There's lots of information overload that mean that even though I'm consciously trying to figure things out, actually it's my subconscious that's doing the work and giving me the answers. But I don't know how it got there. And so that absolutely fascinates me. And I think we've got so much potential. And yeah, I just wish I could spend time plugging electrodes to people's brains, not that I would know what I'm doing, and just really trying to get in there and see what's happening.
So, you know, of course, I'm delighted because you've just said the things I've been trying to also say for years, and you said that so beautifully, and so I'm wondering if we could
Yes, we have an excerpt already. I can see it outlined.
It's right there.
Right there.
I'm wondering if we could spend a little time. So first of all, some of our viewers, as soon as you say, look, we're not in control, what about sleep? They're like, arg. I mean, so this is triggering for a lot of people. And what I've noticed is when I talk about this, same, like we're a puppet, and what's actually in control is this thing that we actually don't know what's going on and our subconscious minds actually have the answer. People get scared, and the fear is the lack of control. And I wonder if we could break and there's many ways to try to get through that we could talk about, but I'm wondering if we could talk about what you've done to try to get through that, or what we could do. Maybe we could brainstorm together about what to get through, because this to me is the bottleneck that is preventing humanity from moving forward, at least in the West. This is the bottleneck, is recognizing the lack of control and that you're actually safe. Like the lack of control and you're safe. I don't mean like nothing bad will ever happen to you, but I mean like in an existential sense, you're absolutely safe. And being able to allow that information to rise up as a result of not having to claim control all the time. Are you open to trying to troubleshoot that? Because this is a theme.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I must admit, and this is definitely something on my weaker side. I don't always appreciate how other people, when I get really excited about something, I don't always appreciate that not everybody will have that same reaction. So
I'm right there with you, sister.
But so to hear that some people find that concept frightening, that automatically makes me want to troubleshoot it, because I definitely don't see this as something to be feared. It's a great thing. It's amazing. There's so much potential.
Yes, so much potential. But the reason why you and I both feel like there's nothing to be feared there is because we've moved through that to the other side where we're looking back and saying, oh, what was scary was that we thought this tiny little conscious mind that's slow and stupid had control. That's scary. That's actually dangerous. But when you're in that other place where you think, actually, no, the intuitive mind misleads you and the conscious mind, it can be rational and independent of the intuitive mind, that's not scientifically sound. It's not even rational. Where do you think the rational conscious mind, the quote unquote rational conscious mind, is coming from? So it's a rationalization to try to protect against that fear.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's my sense. Carmen, are you open to spending some time troubleshooting
Oh,
this?
of
This seems
course,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
I do have a dead stop at 11 my time, which is whatever time it is for you all, because I'm going out with my cousins to check out the wildflowers. This is wildflower season in Texas,
Oh,
and we get
Nice.
beautiful wildflowers. So
it's
we're
super
out,
beautiful here in Virginia, by the way.
roaming the countryside with, there's a beautiful patch here, there's a beautiful patch there.
I hope you're going
People
to take some photos.
burn a lot of
Yeah.
carbon fuel looking to get the beautiful flower in nature, but whatever.
It learns how to deal with it.
Yes.
So, okay, so I'm sure we can handle this question in like 10 minutes and get it resolved. Then we can go on to other things. But yeah, I mean, Carmen, you see this too, right? People getting scared of this aspect.
They're very scared. I was thinking about it when I woke up this morning. They are mostly men, but not all men. I have a good friend of mine who I'd love to get on Pandas, who's going through a health episode. And she's very much a scientist and a member of the tribe also. And just hates, I mean, and anytime I've mentioned this to her, she reacts kind of, with an immediate burst of anger. It's not
Yes.
just opposition, it's
No, and it's not
anger.
neutral. It's anger, which tells you there's something there for her, which is really powerful.
I know. And I'm always, so I get that mostly from men, but I also get it from women. And
Yeah.
and what's so interesting to me is why is there anger around the issue?
Yes. Yes, it's
Now,
so interesting.
as you know, Julia, I have, been in a learning mode on this thing the last 3 years. But I don't think at any time in any of our mentor Padawan conversations have I expressed anger, right? I
Mm.
haven't been angry about it. Why would I be?
Well, because you're not scared.
Well,
But generally, but your worldview. So this is key to troubleshooting this. So Carmen's worldview, when I first met her and talked to her about this stuff, was like, well, I'm skeptical, but I also know, and you just kept saying this, I also know that we do not know everything there is to know about the way the universe works. So if you, I mean, which to me is like an obvious scientific truth, like otherwise, why is there science? So it's just like, if you actually believe that science is useful, then you believe that there are things to know that we don't know, right? And so you've always said that. And that is the key understanding, is that you don't get to hold, it seems to me, you don't get to hold some things as 100% true and they will never change. Because that's actually not a non-scientific, because if you want to be rational and scientific, you can't do that.
Absolutely.
That's not a rational position. Even the speed of light is sketchy. I mean, it's just like these things that we have as laws of nature are there for convenience until we find a better theory. So what makes you think that now isn't the time that we're finding a better theory?
Exactly.
Your fear that you don't know everything, your fear that things might work differently than your thought, your fear of your own true knowing, which is underneath that, which actually knows that you don't know everything, right? I don't know. That's my treatise. What is your sense of it? Nadia, what's your sense of it?
Well, you touched on some really interesting things there, because my the position, if you like. I always say I operate from 1 to 99%. There's no 0% and there's no 100%. There's no absolute either end. Everything's 1 to 99%. And my boyfriend always turn around to me and say, well, I'm 100% sure you're standing in front of me. Like, well, I'm 99% sure I'm standing in front of you, but there's a 1% possibility that actually there's, I don't know, multiple me's or time distortions. I have no idea. And that's why I love following you two, because I feel like by following what you're up to, I'm tapping into that world of knowledge, because that's your areas of interest and expertise, and I get to learn from you, and I find that fascinating. I love it. But I actually, it's really interesting. So I teach, I still teach intelligence analysts and people in related fields within law enforcement in lots of different places around the country and around the world. And I always take this position. It's 1 to 99%. You know, we express ourselves like you do with, you know, the probability yardstick. You express yourself with a degree, a percentage of probability, of likelihood, and it is never 0 or 100%. So that's a worldview to have as well. And I always share these extracts that I get from newspapers. You know, not that long ago there was something, and I don't understand it all, but something around stars colliding in a black hole more frequently than they thought, or something like that. Either way, theories being disproven, and then you have these scientists coming out saying this is amazing, this is really exciting, because what we thought we knew to be true, it's clearly completely wrong, so we get to start again and try and get closer to the truth. We try and convey that excitement to the students. And actually my experience of it is that they get enthused by it. And I gave a talk on subconscious reasoning last September, and I was really nervous about it, because I thought, are people going to think that I've gone a little bit off left field, I've gone a little bit off on a tangent, because there's so much focus on structured analytic techniques and rigor, which I think has its place. But the reception was incredible, really incredible. And the number of people that came up to me afterwards and said, do you know what, it was such a relief to hear you talking about this, because I get this and I daren't voice it because I can't explain it, but hearing you talk about it made me feel such relief. So actually the experience I've had when discussing this with other people isn't fear, it's relief, and it is a little bit of excitement as well.
Wow.
Yep.
Now,
Well, you're giving them permission.
Yeah, I was hoping that you could, if you had like 3 or 4 major points in that talk, you could share them with us, because I would love to know.
Yeah, and before you go there, I wanted to point out that rigor, when you said that rigor has its place even in understanding the information that's coming up from the subconscious. Like people who really work on remote viewing, for instance, they call it a mental martial art, right? And you're learning to be very rigorous about recording everything that's coming up, and not lying to yourself, and not building castles in the air, and not fantasizing. And you can go down the road of fantasizing and building castles in the air. And I have, and other people have, right? And so being rigorous about that is part of the deals. I don't think you get to let go of your analytical capacities. I think you're what you're doing, and I don't think you're teaching that. I think what you're doing is saying that there's 2 pieces here that need to be integrated. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing I do stress as well, and this ties into, I suppose, any theory of expertise that you look at, is you might experience some form of intuition. And I actually am not a fan of the word intuition, because I think it means too many different things to too many different people. So I'll try and stick to calling it subconscious reasoning, like subconscious insight, if you like. You can experience it at any point during, if we're talking professionally, during your career. I do believe that you're more likely to experience the right answer when you have the requisite background knowledge and information that your brain can engage in that pattern matching. Then you're in a stronger position to be able to perhaps trust, or at least trust and test what's coming out of your subconscious. Whereas earlier on, I suppose, is when you may be experiencing that building castles and, you know, just getting carried away almost with it, and having that emotionally reactive gut instinct, which is very different, I see, to subconscious reasoning and insight. And that's always a key message, is learning to differentiate between the two, and trying to encourage people to learn what their subconscious reasoning sounds like. I wrote a blog about this very recently, which actually covers what I discussed
okay.
in that blog. It's, you know, my voice is actually quite shouty and quite patronizing, but I recognize it. It's standing there going, I'm waiting, Nadia. I'm giving you as much information as I can. Come on, catch up. It's that kind of voice. So I've learned to recognize it. And the more you listen, it's almost like the more you're able to tap into it, or perhaps the more it's willing to speak to you. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. It builds on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that you said right at the beginning, Nadia, that I want to make sure we explore is you said that this other way of knowing will manifest itself, make itself known during moments of stress. More than, if that was your assertion, more than other times. And that made me think, yeah, I get it, because like I play bridge every once in a while. I'm horrible at memorizing cards. So I can, if I try to memorize cards, my brain just says, no, I'm not doing it. Literally, I can feel it going, no, no, no. And so it's just based on it's just based on whatever thought enters my mind as to whether or not the ace has been played. And I wish my intuition worked better when I was playing bridge. But I'm very relaxed. I'm not afraid. There's no life or death there. And
Yes.
so it doesn't want to come in and show up either. So
Yeah.
what do you think it is about stress, you or Julia, that wake up these hidden mental talents?
I don't know, Julie, if you don't mind me going first. The word stress, I kind of hesitate to say it's moments of stress, because I think key thing to your intuition speaking up, or your subconscious speaking up, is maybe a high pressure situation. Like you say, it's life or death kind of thing. You've got a time pressure and you've got loads of information. It's too much for the conscious mind to physically be able to sort through, perhaps, I'm not sure, in the time required. But I think the key is, if you're in a state of stress and panic, I don't think, and I'm not saying this scientifically, I've not tested it, I don't think your subconscious will speak up. Your gut reactive voice might speak up because you're in a panic. If you are in a state of stress where you are emotionally intelligent enough in that moment to be able to handle that stress or use it positively, then it will come to the fore. That's my theory. Completely unscientific and completely untested, other than anecdotally, but I get exactly the same thing. You're sitting there and wishing it would talk to you, but it's like everyday situations are just too unimportant, perhaps. I think the situation has to be incredibly, incredibly important for it to bother waking up. I don't know, Julia, what do you think?
Well, there's some things to piece out here. There's that sort of traditional view, the sort of scientific materialist view of the universe that says the universe is impersonal. So the things that are the mechanisms of the universe don't have to do with your idea of what's important. That's all what we place on the universe. But there's some evidence that in fact, the importance or the interest or I call it need-based. The need that we have, that we feel, and I'm talking about a difference between, I like how you used emotional maturity or emotional intelligence in that moment. The difference between like a reactive need, like I'm throwing a fit and I really need it to work out. That, like, recently I was throwing a little fit with my husband. I'm like, I really need money. I'm stressed out. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. That doesn't help at all. And there's no access, right, to what we're talking about. That's all access to system 2, this slow, the thing that we call the non-emotional system, which is really just has kind of derivative emotions, I think. The times when I feel calm, so I'll back this up with scientific data, but I'm just telling you my experience first. The times when I feel calm, emotionally mature, sort of in the flow, like me and the universe, we're holding hands, we're walking along, everything's groovy. That's when things just occur to me.
Mhm.
And that feels like the universe notices, like the universe is, well, what do I think? I'm not separate from the universe. I mean, the universe is feeding my need. The universe is vastly personal, right?
Mm.
It's feeding my need to shape what I do, just like it's feeding the needs of everyone else to shape what they do. Carmen, I don't think the universe cares about whether you do well at bridge or not. And it's just an entertainment for you. But I don't even think you care if you do well at bridge. So it works out, right? So it's holding hands with the universe as the experience and just being like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, one thing to the next and the next and the next. Now, in terms of data, so what we know is that a couple things. One is Serena, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Roni Dougal. I've met her several times. She did some research with meditators, specifically to Tibetan monks who have meditated a lot, and showed that your capacity to predict future events that should be unpredictable, precognition, was better the more that they'd meditated. But that could have been conflated with age, because also they had been monks for a while, and the older ones also had meditated for more hours necessarily because they had been alive longer. And that she replicated that. And so that's interesting in terms of what we're talking about in terms of emotional maturity and capacity to sort of hold hands with the universe or be calm. And then I've done some work showing that being in a state of unconditional love, I have 2 papers. One is about to come out, showing that being in a state of unconditional love, self-reported, you know, I validated this scale about states of unconditional love. I should say, I and my team did this. And that those who are in a state of high unconditional love, which is a self-transcendent, another self-transcendent state, do statistically significantly better at a precognitive remote viewing task. So these kind of things tell me that there's this, I like to call it the pervasive universal consciousness, or Puck, like the character from Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes.
Because
Excellent.
it's exactly like that. It's a little bit mischievous. But the pervasive universal consciousness feels like that is the whole hand holding, that is the relationship, that is the personal and the impersonal, that allows us to connect these things in time and allows us to intuit clearly. And I just don't feel that, and I don't teach my students about feeling that in times of the reason I'm stressed is because I'm not feeling that. Let me put it that way. So to me, when I'm feeling that, I can't be stressed because everything's fine no matter what's going on, even in a emergency state. Like, when my husband used to be really, really sick and there would be these emergencies with his oxygen tank. In an emergency state, when I'm feeling this Puck feeling, pervasive universal consciousness connection, I can function at a high level because it's the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing, get the oxygen to him, do the next thing, recognizing all the implications and stuff. And that's what people report. I mean, the mental martial art effect people report all the time from doing this kind of work.
Yeah,
So-
I can't even speak because everything both of you are saying, I just kind of trying to let it filter into my head and sort in and around with all the information I have, and I end up just going quiet. So I do apologize.
It's okay. I wanted to circle back to the, why people react in anger mode again and kind of try to tease that out a little bit. So there has been historically a lot of people trying to make money out of precognition or intuition or whatever you call it. And and they exist to this day. People that claim they are channeling shamans and channeling ancient spirits in the universe someplace.
Okay.
So what?
I mean, it's okay to claim that, but you're talking specifically about making money with it.
Well, you're getting at my question. So my question I have is, do you think that the people that give these concepts a bad name? Because I think some of the anger, I think, is I'm not gonna fall for that. That's
Yeah.
what stupid people fall for. I'm not going to fall
Yeah.
for it, right?
Yeah.
That's a component of the anger.
Hmm.
So so are the people that are,
Hmm.
you know, making money out of it. There's somebody who's still alive now called Abraham. Are you familiar with either of you familiar with
Oh,
this?
you mean like Esther and Abraham Hicks?
That's right, Esther and
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks. Okay,
Right.
so you can describe them better than I can, Julia, because you know them better than I can. So is your theory, or I mean, you know of them? I don't know. You know, you're more familiar. Is your thinking that they are truly that they are sincere? And if
What do
just
they
thought,
claim,
sorry?
what do they claim to do?
Well,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So
so here's your
Abraham,
explanation. Okay.
I believe Esther died, but I believe
I
Abraham's
believe,
still
I think
there.
Esther died, but the husband is still going. Yeah.
Right. Husband-wife team that started channeling an entity that called itself, in their telling, called itself Seth. And so they're famous for channeling Seth. That's sort of their gig, is they channel Seth. No one else who channels
Okay.
Seth is channeling Seth, kind of thing. I don't know that they say that no one else is channeling Seth, but that's sort of how the community thinks of them. Maybe they do say that. I don't go into their work too much because I find it I have a friend who I really, really admire, who's a scientist who actually developed a nonprofit because he thinks they're bringing really not to support them to because he thinks they're bringing valuable information into the world. So I'm ignorant. I admit that I'm ignorant about whether their information is valuable or not, but there are some people I trust who think that it is. And I absolutely believe that Esther thought before she died, and that Abraham thinks now that he's actually
Okay, that was my question.
channeling this.
So,
Yeah, he believes that. He believes that for
yeah.
sure.
And it's interesting you said you have someone you know who have a foundation to advance what their learnings. I had a very dear friend who died a few years ago. And you know, I mean, she was an extremely close friend, and she was the person I would process things with. You know how you have people that you can talk
Yeah.
out whatever happened, and it's like a processing. And
Mhm.
she was, I mean, she went to see them. She was a complete believer in them. And one of my regrets, Julia, is that you and I met after she died, because Terry would have been so blessed by knowing you and helped and would have so enjoyed it.
Oh, wow, that's too bad. And you know, it doesn't really matter because I'll just talk to her on the other
There
side.
you go. There you go.
Hi, Terry.
And now you know her name. So there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Just tuned in. She seems cool. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, let's take it up a notch in terms of our level of analysis, right? So people are in this world where you have to pay for your time. Like whatever you spend your time doing, you need to make money if you're not independently wealthy. And most people are independently wealthy. So people need to charge for whatever they spend the most time doing. If their experience is that other people find that the thing that they are doing is both legal and helpful to people,
Interesting. Yeah.
then they should probably charge for that because that's what they're going to spend their time doing, and they feel gratified doing it. So they feel like it's a self-transcendent experience to help other people in this way and do this thing. So it's kind of none of their business in a way, unless they're a scientist, about whether or not they're actually doing the thing that they say that they're doing, is channeling this being. Maybe they're just really wise people and they're using this being as an excuse to let their wisdom come out. That's also fine. But it's sort of like my attitude is you have to, right now in the world, you have to make money somehow and you have to account for your time. And so if the legality and the ethics of it seem good, I don't think that they think that they're tricking people. And that's the key, is that's the ethics.
Mm. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because automatically you care about whether someone is deliberately being polarizing, or is, you know, even if it's legal, whether it's morally questionable. And you would think naturally, okay, those are persons that you want to exclude. Those are opinions or views that you perhaps want to not necessarily exclude, but you would be more likely to challenge. I feel like there is a space where it's all very, very grey. It's very difficult to distinguish. We're judging human behaviour. It's very difficult to distinguish why someone is doing the thing that they say they're doing. We've seen so many examples, and I'm not saying this is the case here, but you know, this is what feeds into my thinking. You see so many examples where people are doing morally questionable things for financial gain, where ostensibly, until it all falls apart, they genuinely believe in what they're doing. And then when the wheels fall off 5-10 years down the line, suddenly you see that all along it was a scam, or it was, you know, they didn't believe in what they were doing. And it's always really difficult to know and to judge who's acting in what capacity when it comes to anything that you may disagree with, or, you know, like you're talking about friends, you have friends who may have very different viewpoints. You believe in things perhaps that you don't believe in. I feel like I struggle when I feel like a friend or somebody I know comes to believe in something and it becomes the thing that defines them.
Yes.
And when you cannot relate anymore, you cannot debate, then that thing to me in and of itself becomes potentially questionable. And I've actually seen this before with a group of persons who actually, one of the things that they really discuss is precognition. So I was always extremely skeptical about it because the effects that this group had on somebody I know were so extreme. I thought, well, what is going on here? What is this thing that I have no concept of that is taking over this person's life? And it wasn't until coming across yourselves and being reintroduced to the concept in a new way, and bearing in mind I do operate on 1 to 99%, so therefore you cracked open the door for me that maybe there is something to this thing. But the difference is the way in which people go about sharing their information. I feel like when people have their lives almost taken over by, or it becomes a thing that they become defined by and they won't budge on it, and they're, you know, 0 or 100%, there's no in between, something's not quite right over there. The concept can still have validity or truth or something to it,
Right.
but the way it's being sold over that way is uncomfortable. It makes me feel,
It's sort of an
you know,
absolutist approach.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, all absolutist approaches, in my experience, are incorrect.
But that doesn't mean that the topic is incorrect. It's like there are absolutists around COVID absolutists around
Yes, yeah,
either side of that,
right.
which doesn't mean their information is wrong.
Yeah.
So this is the tricky thing, right? So the precognitive people there, I mean, there's scientific information to support the point that precognition is probably a real human capacity.
Mm.
But when that becomes your identity, then you have to ask the question, why is that your identity? Why is your identity a fact? Because the thing about science is, you know, we're going to change our view of precognition because we're going to understand what's going on at some point. Or understand better, but then the view will change again and again and again. So if your identity is a fact, that actually is kind of, to me, blasphemous
It's
about
like a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, but it's also like not acknowledging the divinity of your soul. I mean, it's like it's like you think your identity is something as weak as a fact. You don't even see your own beauty. You don't even see your own kaleidoscope of fantastic nature. So it makes me upset. Like, it makes me want to cry because it's so superficial, you
I
know?
think this is one reason I've definitely, the older I've gotten, the more I learn about new things, the more I've come to appreciate taking a step outside and learning about gratitude and really enjoying bird song. I'm really enjoying looking at the trees because there's so much out there. There's so many possibilities. There's so much potential. There's so much disagreement. It can't matter. It has to not matter if you want to get through life happy, because it can be polarizing. And unless everybody around you has the ability or the willingness to debate and be open to possibility, it's always going to lead to disagreement and sometimes arguments. So I've definitely found that I need to be outside, like you're talking about wildflowers earlier.
Yes.
Need to be amongst the wildflowers, amongst nature. It just suddenly, it's like a big reset, isn't it?
Do you still
I
take your big hikes? I remember that you were quite an outdoors hiker person, which you share with Julia.
Yes, I still go hiking, not as much as I used to for various reasons, but I'm hoping to get back into it soon. So
Good,
yes,
good.
it's very
All right.
important.
If I go to the UK, we are going on a hike. And if you come here, we're also going on a hike.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. Now
That
I
sounds amazing.
have a completely off the wall question to ask you. And it is like off topic now, but
Okay.
it entered my mind. It just came waltzing in. So, but we're talking to someone who's in England, who has analytic and investigative talents. So what the heck is going on with Kate Middleton?
I don't
The
even know.
Princess of Wales.
I tell you what, I'm aware that there's been a scandal to do with a photograph. I have seen the photograph. Honestly, I don't care, so I've moved on.
Right. Yeah, that's what I find when I, when I was in London for 3 years, working in the early 90s, I found that most of the people that I dealt with, however you want to describe the kind of people they were, but they were clearly educated, working for the Foreign Office, they could care less about any
Royals?
royal rumor.
Yeah.
Although I am beginning to think that the Princess of Wales position is cursed, and I'm very good at inventing these because David, the king who abdicated, the whole issue was who he wanted his Princess of Wales to be, right? And then Prince Charles, of course, had the whole issue with Diana. And now we've got William with, and I don't mean to make a joke out of it. So that's totally wrong. But obviously she has some serious health issue that is difficult to deal with. Otherwise they would have been more open with it.
I'll tell you what, I couldn't help but laugh. I wasn't laughing at the topic itself. I was laughing because in the back of my mind, I was thinking, tomorrow when I wake up, are we going to find a tabloid with the headline, ex-CIA Carmen Medina says that she thinks that the role of Princess of Wales is cursed?
Oh, well.
I can just imagine it, tabloid fodder.
There we go.
No, but there is so much conspiracy about everything. It's like, we really need to spend more time with ourselves because everybody cares far too much about everybody else, and it's ridiculous. And the topic of this, I am very much aware it's a picture that allegedly was manipulated. You can perhaps see a finger was missing, I can't remember. Does that not, but my hope is that all of this, the ability to manipulate photos, create deep fake videos, blah, 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 but I hope, as useful as the internet is, and as useful as social media is, because we wouldn't have met had it not been for social media, that actually it's going to cause people to step away from it, because you can no longer trust anything that you see on there. So I really hope that it's the next great shift. We've globalized, which is fantastic, but we now need to shift away and care less and tap in less to what's going on in the world, and spend more time not at home, but with our attention at home or on a greater good, as opposed to everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's a very powerful point. We've externalized our lives. We're just like caring and paying attention to all this other stuff and not ourselves and our family and our environs. There's like a deeper meaning to the go local movement that, right? I'm sure it's big in England as well, right? Do things locally
Yep.
It has actually a deeply personal connotation as well that we need to grab hold of. I like that a lot.
We're
You know,
talking-
sorry.
Go on.
Oh no, my friend Garrett, who was a energy healer person who was just, I think, very psychic and helpful. But he passed on, and he would say, look, if there's no one home, someone else is going to take up residence. Like, actually, it's really important to spend time with your inner space so that you have an address where good things can happen, information can go, you have an address and it's your home, you know?
And I think that, you know, coming back to what we're talking about around the subconscious and intuition, and I always like to, and I think this is something that maybe causes a little bit of buy-in when I talk about things that are perhaps slightly out of grasp. Bear in mind, I'm not an expert, but, you know, talking about increased insight and precognition, I'm aware that, you know, meditation links to increased gamma ray activity, I think it is, in the brain that is linked to, that's what you experience.
Not gamma ray activity, but not gamma ray, but gamma oscillation activity.
Gamma oscillation, okay. But there are definitive things that we can pinpoint in the brain that happen at moments of insight and happen at different points of reasoning. And, you know, we're aware of lots of different neurotransmitters and hormones that affect cognitive function. And when you think about being in touch with the self, going local, even if it's supporting your local community, that social aspect and the increase in potentially oxytocin in the brain that is going to improve cognitive function, but also then the decrease of, you know, we're talking about stress. If you are caring about everything in the world and you're reacting to everything with distress and with panic, you're never going to be in that state to allow your subconscious to properly function or to come out. So if we're coupling those things, you know, caring less about the world, decrease that reactive level of stress, spend more time with those you care about, including your community, increase your levels of oxytocin. I always have to think about that, and I blame OxyContin every time. OxyContin, oxytocin, oxytocin. You know, all these different things, when we strike the right balance and understand what's happening in our brains, even if it's poorly, like oscillations versus rays, I have a gist, right? You can manipulate that in a good way. I know I need to reduce that and I need to increase this, and this is how I achieve it. And one of those ways is step away from the big world noise, because, okay, we care about our fellow humans all around the world, but it is outside of our control a lot of the time. So choose wisely and carefully what you are going to spend your energy on, because otherwise you're not helping anybody, because you're not helping yourself. If you don't help yourself, what good are you to the world? I don't know if that's overly simplistic.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, for people who are in professions where, and there's a lot of them who watch this show, or not a lot of them, but some of them watch this show, who are in professions where their job is to care about what's going on in the rest of the world. And day after day, they have to know all that information. Yeah. It's paradoxical, but it's even more important that there's a tuning inward to avoid the trauma and to avoid the trying to escape all the feelings that happen by leaving yourself and immersing yourself in what's out there. And in fact, you make better decisions by being in this place. It's like the difference between being a samurai warrior who has a management of your mind space and just being out there just slashing things. Right. And so that's part of the toolkit. That's really important. And the US military has discovered that and is slowly working on, you know, creating space for this mental martial art. And the intelligence community is in the process of discovering that. I'll just be generous. And it will lead to a recognition, I think, internationally, that when we're at home with ourselves and connected, that we do better work out in the world.
I don't know if either one of you are familiar with the musical Candide that was written by Leonard Bernstein. I actually got to see it last summer in a very nice.
Is it Voltaire related, Candide?
It's a musical based on the story of Candide, and in that story goes all over the world. Candide gets into all these scraps and, horrible disasters happen. But the very last song is so beautiful, and we were gonna put it on the playlist. And the song is called Make Our Gardens Grow. And basically the theme of the song is, I'm done with wandering the world. I'm going to concentrate on what matters. And this is the chorus. We're neither pure nor wise nor good. We'll do the best we know. We'll build our house and chop our wood and make our gardens grow and make our garden grow. So it's a beautiful song.
Wow.
I recommend that everybody listen to it.
It'll be on the playlist.
It'll be on the playlist. So Nadia, I think we're almost at time. Yes, we got 5 minutes. So you mentioned you have a blog. So talk about how people can contact you, what your focus of effort is now, et cetera, et cetera.
Gosh, okay. So the blog I wrote was actually for the I2 group, because that was the talk I gave was at their conference last year. So if anybody, everyone knows I2 Analyst Notebook, usually within the intelligence community. So the I2 group, that's where you'll find specifically that blog on subconscious reasoning. So how do people contact me? Find me on LinkedIn. I'm not on social media, but I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we always put the LinkedIn profile on our show notes. Yes.
Perfect. That's probably the easiest way to get in contact with me. I do have a website as well for my freelance trading, but it's all a bit of a mouthful. newinsightanalysis.com. If you can find that, you can type it into the URL, then you'll find me there. But my focus, I've had a career divergence now. So I'm a senior lecturer at Brunel University London, and I'm actually teaching all the new police recruits that join the Metropolitan Police in London.
What a blessing to have someone like you. I gotta say it, be part of that process.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's lovely. Well, so I'm there doing that. And I'm still training people, intelligence analysts and investigations unit. My focus, my passion, in case you couldn't tell, is about the way we think. If anyone ever wants to focus on just explore different ways of thinking and explore the possibilities, that's always what I'm there for. And emotional intelligence as well. I've recently developed a workshop on that. So it's a one day of really getting to know yourself and learning about what you experience, how you handle it, how you engage with other people. And make no mistake, it is a workshop. I have a thinking skills workshop as well, and I put people to work and we have a good time, we have a laugh. And those are my passions, and that's what I really, really care about. It's just exploring the possible. I love it. I'm like a child. I'm like a puppy running around going, I want to learn new things. And I never think I'm the smartest person in the room. I never think I have all the answers, but sometimes I think I can be a bit of a guiding hand to help people who want to explore with me. And that's what I try and do, especially within the intelligence community, because that's where I came from. And I still very much think of myself as an intelligence analyst. And I have all the time in the world for the work that these people do. It can be such a difficult and demanding job. So anything I can do to contribute back to that, now that I'm in a different place in my own career, I love doing that. So
fantastic.
That was a bit of a rambling answer, wasn't it?
No, that was absolutely fantastic. And God willing, the universe willing, when I'm in London at the end of May, maybe you can pick out your favorite Middle Eastern, Lebanese, Levantine, however you want to describe it, restaurant, and you'll be my guest.
Oh, brilliant. Right. I will put my thinking hat on and try and narrow down some options.
Absolutely.
Wow, Nadia, I'm just blown away. Thank you for your good words and your good work. And just like a gift that you gave to us by being here, and the gift that you give to the world all the time by being you. And so awesome. I love you. You're great.
Yeah, right. I told you. Yes.
You did.
I told you.
Thank you so much. I'm blown away. Honestly, it's an honor to be here with you two. I think you're fantastic. I absolutely love everything you do. It's a really genuine honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh,